Good evening. This is such a blessing to be here tonight. Last week we had Hurricane Ian, and my goodness, talking about rethink your health. There are millions rethinking their lives right now. I have several friends. Most of my friends are in healthcare, and I have several friends, but most particularly one nurse who I'm hoping to get her to do a podcast on her first devastating loss of a lot, but her rescue efforts, and along with hundreds of other nurses who have lost everything as well, trying to give to people who are sick and scared, dying. It's an amazing time to be alive for me, to watch so much kindness in action, and and to realize that as broken as our healthcare system is, nurses are not. We can talk about compassion fatigue and burnout all we want, but at the core of nurses, whether they're Black or they're white or they're foreign or they're LPNs or NPs, at their very core is human kindness, competency, and the ability to function where most of us would fall apart. So while I believe that the healthcare system cannot stand the strain of COVID, economics, aging population, I believe that nurses are the solution. And I'm glad to start with that because there is an amazing nurse that we'll be talking to this evening. She is an RN. Her name is Glennae Davis. She's out in Orange County, California, so it's a little earlier for her tonight. But I found her just, she maybe commented a little bit on my LinkedIn. Hi, everybody at LinkedIn. She might have commented there, and I fell absolutely head over heels in love with what she does. She has a company that she calls RX for Life. She has a strategy to coach nurses called COPING. And she also is an author of books on bias and burnout. And one of my favorite things about her is that she is a nurse who discovered the power of aromatherapy to both heal herself, cope with the stress and trauma of nursing, and to share it with other nurses. It is fragrance friendly in the hospital environment, but more importantly, it acts on the brain to calm and to energize and to soothe. And now I get to introduce this extraordinarily beautiful nurse. Welcome, Glennae. Let me get you up here. Hey.
Hi. Hi, Tanya. Hi, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here. Your introduction was amazing. At the core of every nurse, no matter if we're Black, white, foreign, is compassion. And that is so true. I love nurses. I love being a nurse. And I don't care how big my business get, I would definitely always go and serve my time because I feel like patients need what I have to bring them. And I'm honored to be here with you tonight.
Oh, you know what? Slow down a minute, Glennae. So you practice bedside nursing. What type of nursing currently are you doing?
Oh, so right now I do contract nursing and I
Mhm.
just go to ambulatory surgical centers. But my background is very extensive. I've had the honor of working in with patients with multi-organ system failure in the medicine ICU and solid organ transplantation and pain management, adult and pediatric, and also cardiac catheterization. I have a healthcare experience that spans 30 years, but my nursing practice is about 18 years. And so, yeah, I'm amazed at healthcare. And I'm also frustrated with the way healthcare is going, particularly in the case of burnout and bias in the healthcare system, and for all employees who go to the healthcare system for their own workplace woes. There has to be a better solution. And I'm so glad that I discovered one.
All right. So, Glennae, I'm going to ask you to first of all talk about your book on bias and what the core message is that we can take away from it. And I'm gonna put you full screen because I just love your background and I love you. Let me jump off for a minute and give you the time to explain what your essential message is to nurses.
Yeah. So my essential message to nurses is, I wrote a little, this is the book, Bias and Burnout, 10 Power Moves for Healthcare Workplace Equity. And to tell you, I wrote this book. It's a very intimate book, and it's, fits really nicely in your hands. And it has chapters called Pain and Purpose, Power Moves, Chronic Job Stress, Confronting Bias, Disease or Wellness, because that's our choice, you guys. Chapter 6 is Conflicted Decisions. Chapter 7 is Are You Depressed or Oppressed? And then Chapter 8 is Justice of anybody. You're getting to justice in where you are in your life and in your workplace. And so I dedicated this book to nurses. And it says that I'm continuously inspired by your love and sacrifice, your study to heal. Here's my best effort to save a dying profession. And burnout almost took me out, you guys.
I'm gonna bring up this picture that I found. I can't hear you. Hello? Hello? Glennae, your mic is muted.
That did the devil come through here muting my mic?
I'm telling you.
I did not do that.
I'm so sorry, and I know you were talking, and it was sure
it was so
brilliant.
Good.
Yes, it was, but that's okay. We'll get a chance to make it even better. I want to talk to you because some of those titles that were in your book that you did read through before we lost your audio were very, very powerful. Things like pain with purpose and justice and getting over that. But one of the things that you do is called, your coping strategy.
Right.
And you said before the devil took your mic, burnout almost brought you down. And I just want to share for the people who are listening a photo while you talk over it, because I found this and I said, no, this can't be the same Glennae.
Yes.
So I'm going to put this on for us and
let's go at it. Let's talk about this.
And here we have it.
I want you to know, you guys, many of you are looking like this right now. I'm sorry to tell you that. You're tired, you're burned out, your doctor is putting you on medication, antidepressants, you're going probably in chronic pain and they're trying to put you on more steroids. This is what you're looking like in the midst of that medication. And I can say that honestly, because I didn't know that I looked like that until months after I healed and I went back through my selfies. I knew my hair was, thinned out and everything from stress, because that's probably one of the first things that happen to women. I don't know about men, but women, when we're experiencing chronic stress, we lose our hair and we lose the luster of our skin. And so as I go through these pictures, I can tell you that I had chronic dry red eye. My sister used to come over to my home when I was going through this, and I had Visine and clear eyes all over the place. And you guys, I wasn't smoking weed or anything, but my eyes was just chronically red. And my sister asked me, why do you have so many Visines? And I was like, I don't know. I get, because I need it. But then I would go to the doctor and he would the ophthalmologist, and he would be like, Ms. Davis, I need you to come back earlier. I need you to come back earlier than a year because your pressures are really high. So this is me enduring chronic stress. this is me. My chronic stress was employment discrimination. For those of you who do not know, that discrimination in the workplace is a form of chronic job stress, and it is unaddressed by any modality in the healthcare system. And I don't want you to be alone looking like this. And the other picture on the right side of the chronic dry eye is me looking ashen, and I was suffering in pain. I had a repetitive stress injury. One day, after my 7th year of nursing, I was doing AM assessments, and I was pushing back my patient's bio through a 60cc syringe using my thumb, as I always did. And all of a sudden, my elbow just what felt like caught on fire. And I caught myself, and I caught his fluids because I didn't want his electrolytes off balance. And I managed to get it back in, and I put a cold pack on. But that one injury took me away from the bedside, and it pushed me into the workers' compensation system, where, I mean, if I can just be candid, for me, it was a modern day gas chamber. It was like I couldn't go through this system without losing everything or denying everything. It was a strange phenomenon, and I had to figure out how to navigate it. And so this is what I looked like.
Okay, we're going to talk about how the system that you chose for navigation, or the coping that you talk about.
Exactly.
But I also put up there the skin. You know, for me, it's almost immediate. I can tell if I'm not handling stress correctly, because I get furrowed brow, my skin gets blemished, my dark spots get darker, and I just don't feel like I have any glow unless I wear glitter makeup, right?
Exactly.
So, you know, the condition of your health is written all over your face.
Exactly.
And I just think that your bravado in showing these photographs really can help us, say, what can we look at that we know is a physical manifestation of our stress?
Right.
Physical manifestation of our stress, and how can we reverse it? So let me just off here for a moment, and let's talk a little bit about what is the core of your coping strategies and what do you teach?
So the core of my coping strategy is a 40-day coping method, and it is a process, a method that I did adapt from the nursing process, but it relates to the workforce using our employment rights. And it is a theory that I tested, and I have re-implemented on new other students and clients who are willing to cope. Now, coping means that you are facing difficult situations with a measurable degree of success. So you have to be willing to put your feelings aside when you're going through this program, and just be about the business of what you were hired for. You were hired as an employee, and part of your employment is understanding your rights, you know, and being vulnerable in that area protected me, and protected some of my clients from disparities. And it's been an amazing experience. And I'm like, how do I replicate this and keep getting it out there and just teaching people and having them understand that if you combine these essential oils during your coping processes and doing the hard thing, that you will be successful. You will have your goals met.
You know, I think it's interesting. You know, many of our folks that listen and view are not Black, probably don't feel discrimination. But I'll tell you what, most nurses feel discriminated. The system systematically takes away power from nurses. I mean,
well, my white friends and white readers very much relate to my story, because I write from a lens of a Black woman, of course, but I write in a way where it covers all socioeconomic statuses, because
Mhm.
you have to understand, I grew up in the hood. I'm not from Orange County. I am from Los Angeles, California. And so I grew up in the inner city, and then I didn't get much education. My mother was a paranoid schizophrenic. So my entire adolescence was like one big summer school. So the sixth grade is the only grade that I culminated. I went to the eighth grade, but then I didn't have credits or anything that really matched my grade level. I had a child at 16, then dropped out of school.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I didn't, when I went to college, it took 10 years to get an associate's degree, because I had all these remedial courses and classes to master and learn and understand. So the way that I write and the way that I express myself is kind of either nursing or inner city, are some social cues that I learned when I started working, because I didn't grow up with group socializations or anything like
Wow.
that. So
Wow. I mean, your story right there. I know that you have, what is the name of your autobiography?
it's called, my memoir is called Yet Here I Stand, My Journey from Bondage to Liberty. And
Oh my God.
it is a very powerful story. And you guys, I didn't even know that I could write. I knew as a kid that I used to read like the Webster's Dictionary, and I had an affinity for words and the power of words and everything. But I also had some illiteracy issues, because I couldn't even string together a sentence, as a young adult, until I went back to school and had to learn how to do these things. But when I was fired for disability from my hospital, and I was like, I was 40 years old, and I was like, I don't even have any talents. Like, what am I going to do? Like, all I ever known was employment. And I've always been an excellent employee. And I think some people think that my approach is not excellency, but it is excellency in employment, because what it does is bring a win-win situation for the employee and the employer, so that the employee is not left out and left behind doing what they're supposed to do in the workplace. So I'm always excited to say that when you do right by natural laws, whether or not you believe in God or not, you don't have to. I don't care. I do. But what I do care about is that you believe in your own spirit of truth, and that you do not acquiesce against that or acquiesce against the laws that's before you, because you're afraid of something else. Like, you can't be afraid of anything. Like, the whole world is yours. And for me to have been fired at 40 and had come from where I come from, and then had written books, is just amazing. That's not me. That's my power and my
That's your
source.
power, your purpose. That's your
Yes,
blessing, right? That's your God.
yes,
That's
yes.
amazing. All of those things. So let me get practical here. So professionally, you're setting down. You're on this journey. You're working as a registered nurse.
Mhm.
You're training nurses in um, overcoming burnout that comes from bias, or
Right,
feeling less than worthy, right?
right.
Less than worthy. And you work with people individually, yes?
I do. I work with people individually. Right now, I'm trying to pivot and get everything into a workshop, because I think it's more time effective. And one of the problems is that people are used to HIPAA and privacy laws, and they kind of think that this is kind of skating along those lines. But I want you all to know that if you're experiencing any kind of discrimination in the workplace, any kind of bias, any kind of harassment, none of those things are private. They are all very much public information, and you should be screaming from the top of your lungs for somebody to hear you. And you should be in a workshop so that you can hear other people's experiences and know what to do, and trust what it is that your gut is telling you to do, and be empowered and positioned from there. You don't need to be just in a private room where it's just between you and somebody else, because you're not going to get the answers that you need. People have not faced the challenge and then done unorthodox things the way that I did and survived it. And so I'm the leader there. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
say it. I'm the
that's your
leader there.
superpower, right?
Huh?
That's your
Yes.
superpower.
Because I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I know what's going to happen if I trust my employer. I know what's going to happen if I trust their ways. I see it. I see the health disparities. I see the poor coping strategies. And I tried the medication, Tanya, and I literally went numb. I could have walked into an 18-wheeler and not felt a thing. And, you know, you talk about domestic violence. I popped off on my own kids. I've done things that are just so unimaginable off of the medication. I wouldn't suggest it for anyone going through something where there is a true antagonist in your life, where there is somebody and something that is disrupting you.
Well, antagonists, whether they're real or whether they're self-perceived,
Mm-hmm. And
is the
self-perception is real. Your perception is
right,
real still.
is
Yeah.
the root of all disease, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
the root of all stress, and
Yes.
stress is the root of all disease.
Right.
So, your coping, if I'm kind of understanding this correctly, is let's identify the antagonists
Right.
in your
Right.
life.
Right. And that's where the coping process come in.
Let's process that.
We take that assessment, we identify and the vision and the outcomes, and then we also make a judgment. We decide what is happening here, what this looked like, what it feels like, and who sent it, where did it come from. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to sit on that for a moment. And I really encourage people to take time off work to really sit down with themselves and their thoughts. And if they're not ready to take time off work, then we do a schedule where they're just taking 20 minutes out of their evening after work to be alone in worship and prayer with God. You know, I don't tell people to, you know, do anything else, but you can do whatever it is that you need to do. My goal is to lead you to what worked for me and where the truth is, and help you understand how to unpack that and to trust that you cannot fail when you choose your health first against the system at all.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't. It looks like you can, but you cannot. You cannot.
It's funny when you sit down with the antagonist
Mm-hmm.
after you have deeply and authentically processed why it's a source of stress and strife in
Right.
your life. Oftentimes, that antagonist will change. Oftentimes, there might be another action besides confronting your antagonist. But the very first step often yields amazing results.
Right. And usually that first step, and it is one of the power moves, is to confront. You know, whether you're confronting yourself in a situation or if you're confronting someone else. And you know, confront have such a negative connotation to it, but it is absolutely a beautiful, beautiful word and a beautiful action that you can take at work with your peers. You know, some people never want to approach the peer or never want to approach the person who's doing something to them. And they'll come to me or they'll talk to friends, be like, I would have, you know, they say they shoulda, woulda, coulda, and they'll say things like, you know, they'll spill out a whole speech of what they could have said. And it's like, well, did you say that? You know, you have to have that conversation. And
Yeah,
people,
confrontation is about engagement,
it's
right?
about engagement.
Engagement.
Yeah, and really finding the treasure of what the issue is and whether or not this is a friend or whether or not this is a foe. And at least you know where you stand with this person. It brings clarity and you know what to do after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you
So
can't skip over it.
no, you can't skip over it.
No.
You know what I find? I worked as an administrator in a couple of hospitals, besides the work that I've done in healthcare kind of reform and innovation. But when I was an administrator, you know, I saw both ends of the spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
I saw, you know, deep, what's the word? You know, a deep disvaluing of
Mm-hmm.
nurses for who they are, a deep disvaluing. And then I saw nurses in overreactive modes because of those feelings that they couldn't put their hands on.
Right.
Right? They couldn't put their fingers on.
That's
They
who I want. That's who I want to talk to, because it's important for them to have someone to understand that they may be lost and they need direction. And once they get direction to where they're going, then they can address that situation. But sometimes we don't have the words, we don't have the experience, or we are disillusioned about what it is that we are really experiencing. And then it becomes something else, and it becomes manifest in other ways, and alcoholism and sexism and abuse and just all these other things. But then you still got this issue kind of lingering in the background that you have to address.
Yeah, and three things that you keep talking about, I just put up on the screen: advocacy, support, and
Mm-hmm.
guidance. And
Yes.
it seems that those are like vitamins,
Yeah.
right? Those are things that can improve your health.
Mm-hmm.
Advocate for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Find someone like a coach
Mm-hmm.
or an organization that will help
Mm-hmm.
advocate for you.
Right.
Feel supported, and then feel like you have a plan to guide
Right.
you.
Exactly. Because we all need a plan. You don't create a business without a plan. You shouldn't enter the healthcare system without a plan. You need to tell your doctors what it is that you need from them. Doctors are our servants. We go to them. We're supposed to know what we need, but we don't have the, I don't know. I don't even want to say the education, but we don't have that, because I don't want to say
I
education
think
in a
it's we don't
way.
have the confidence. I think it's that we don't have the courage because we don't have that confidence truly that we deserve anything. So
Right.
many people, and oops, I think
Yeah. That's so true.
I mean, I
That's so
think,
true.
and I think that, and particularly we're talking about nurses, but it's for everyone. There's
Mm-hmm.
a certain nurse character that's about service, and
Right.
oftentimes service takes away some of our ego, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When we can't balance that, we become kind of weak spirited. And the more weak spirited we are, the more bullies take advantage.
That is true.
Hospitals, doctors, it's just
Yeah.
horrible.
And I hear a lot of people, patients that I even have today, they're just like, oh, I don't want to, cause any trouble. And, I don't like conflict. And I'm thinking, like, come on, like, these are not bad things. Like, I know that I've been a fighter my entire life, but you know, I'm fighting for my space in this world, and I don't want to continue to get bullied and trampled and taking things over. And I also don't want to be holding on to things that I should let go. So wisdom tells us about this stress and the fight and flight system. I don't know where freeze came from, who created that, and why people evolved to a freeze paradigm in their life. But you have two options when stress comes to you: to fight or to flight. And wisdom tells us that you should know what you're fighting for and know what you're running from, and make sure that you're not running from what you should be fighting for. And you should always be fighting for your rights, because they will be easily taken away from you once you leave them.
And it's funny. I myself had late stage cancer. And I had friends, in particularly one friend who went through a similar cancer diagnosis that I did. And then, of course, you just have a community of people that are
Right.
fighting. And it seems to me that in the research and in my own life, those of us that refuse to give up our power
Mm-hmm.
to someone's advice
Mm-hmm.
survived.
Yes, me. I can't. Yeah. I rarely ask for advice on things that I experience and go through unless I know that it's just common. What works best for me is to seek counsel, to talk to people, and then I can extrapolate from that some tokens of what it is that I will probably need to use. And then in good faith, I'll move that route.
And it's just so hard. We have, for some reason, the LinkedIn comments aren't coming up here. Lots. Thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your efforts. Very exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that I want to turn now to practical things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you said, you had a patient today that said, I don't want to cause any trouble.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was the troublemaker as a cancer patient, right? It's like, no, I'm not comfortable in this position.
Right.
I'm not comfortable waiting 5 months for this. No,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you gave practical advice to someone and you said, look, you are worthy of
Right.
being disappointed.
Right.
You are worthy of this problem that you have. So let's get it solved, right?
Right.
Good medicine. Listening to a patient's problem, letting them complain, letting them give us their pain for a moment.
Right. Sharing their fear, sharing
Right.
their hope, and
Mm-hmm.
sharing their frustration. That's all important. And it always don't cause for a response, but just a listening ear. Sometimes people just need to vent.
Right. Right. And that's a part of the coping process.
That's a part of the coping process.
That's
I sat in psychiatry for 2 years, and we never went into psychotherapy or anything. After the medicine I tried and I told her I can't do this anymore, then we decided to do natural medicines. And she was like, well, I want you to know that you may not get approved for short-term disability if you don't take medication. And you see how all of that is interlinked with each other. Like, I'm supposed to get on medicine so that they can understand and approve my payments. No,
no.
I don't want to. I want the least invasive treatment first. And
Mm-hmm.
that means that I need to take time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I put up something that's kind of silly. It's emojis that I have my grandchild who
Uh-huh.
who lives with me.
Coping skills.
Yeah, and this
Okay.
is something that I found for him because just for this thing, he is challenged with autism on the spectrum and a few other wonderful diagnoses like bipolar.
Uh-huh.
And so at 11 years old, he has no idea how to cope, because
Mhm.
it's not natural. It's not natural for any of us. Not
Right.
natural for any of us, right? But
Right.
especially for a child that has kind of brain chemistry. So
Right.
when I met you and heard all about coping, things are so complicated and we make them so much more complicated.
Right.
I love this little diagram. I'm going to sneak it in before we start talking about aromatherapy because I believe that can be another emoji. But look, it just says take deep belly breaths, right? A 5-year-old and an 85-year-old can understand this. How many times as a nurse, and this comes from one of my nurse friends during the pandemic, she said, every 2 hours, I realized I was hyperventilating because all I was doing was rapid breathing. I was
Uh-huh.
doing rapid breathing because people were dying and I wasn't taking a deep breath. So
Uh-huh.
I love that, right? And the next one is squeeze and then relax your muscles. We know that stress produces constricted muscles. Constricted muscles, cause pain. Pain causes the release of bad inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
Inflammation kills us. So we should learn how to squeeze our muscles and then let them go. So we
Right.
understand what it is to relax.
Right.
Happy thoughts, you're about that too, right? It's not just, oh, I don't want to conflict, so let me think about rainbows. You
Right.
you think about how you're going to feel when you tell your employer that you feel like you're less than your colleagues. That's a happy thought, because you're going to think, I'm going to be listened to, and somehow this problem is going to be resolved.
Right.
I think sleeping is such an underrated bit of advice. I think if psychiatrists would just tell everybody to get an extra 3 hours of sleep on top of what they usually get, the world would be a much more mental healthy place,
Right.
right? Even just taking a nap
Oh
in
yeah.
the outcomes. And then the last thing I love, it's so silly. And maybe it works for 5 year olds, but it works for this old lady too. Just stop, close your eyes, breathe, and count all the way up to 10 slowly. And it's a challenge because you want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, because you want
Right.
to get back to that adrenaline. You want
Right.
to get back to that mess. But I love this idea, and I want to put up somebody smelling something, because
Right.
honestly, I think this whole concept of doing all these things, and it's beautiful. You're making it into a program that's
Right.
40 days, did you say?
Yeah, well, it's a 40-day coping method.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
you have these instant lifts. We're going to shift for a moment into something that I find so powerful about you, and that is the use of aromatherapy and
Right.
like bias and workplace conflict.
Yes.
Talk about how you discovered this and what you're doing with it.
I will. I will talk about how I discovered it, and one of the emojis plays right into that. Well, many of them actually. And the one about the deep belly breaths. I cannot take a deep belly breath unless I am inhaling essential oils because they feel so good. So I use an essential oil when I was working as a intensive care nurse. This was back in 2012 or 2013 when we used to use peppermint essential oils in our patient rooms for patients who were had C. diff. It was a very distinctive smell, so we would like put essential oils on gauze just to freshen up the room. But then I started inhaling them, you know. See, I can't do it without it. So, and just identifying the fragrances that comes in these essential oils and things that are so simple, the constituents and the components and the terpenes and all these things that just instantly hit my vagus nerve and my nervous system to calm me. So what does that do? Release anxiety. It stops anxiety in its tracks and it begins to reverse some of them fired nervous neurons that are on the end of your cells to bring you back to a calm state. This is what you want, especially working in high stress areas. You want to be more like a Superman. You don't want to rise to the stress levels in your stressful environment. You want to know what you know and respond. You don't want to react, you want to respond. And the way that you do that is to know that your immune system is definitely intact. And I started using these essential oils when after my bias. Like I knew the peppermint oil, but I didn't get into all of these different essential oils and the mechanisms of actions that they have for the stress. And I believe, you guys, in the Bible, every servant of God is using an essential oil, an oil, or an herb to stay in compliance. I don't know if it's to stay in compliance, but to for the body to not overreact to the stress of doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're supposed to be doing it. So I do feel that if I was using essential oils more regularly as I was enduring the things that I was enduring, because I was doing the right things, but my body was reacting because I was missing essential oils, right? Essential. Our bodies don't produce these things, but we need them in our life for health, right? We need them in our life to overcome stress. That I feel like I wouldn't even look like I was looking.
Now, peppermint is, let's talk about some of the basic fragrances we know about. You know, peppermint helps you to lose weight. It takes away your appetite.
It has an appetite suppressant. It does suppress your appetite for sure.
And it releases anxiety, which makes sense because anxiety increases your appetite. Now, there are some other ones, like I know lavender, for instance. You know, it's funny because aromatherapy is the way we live our life. We smell fire, we react, right?
Right.
We smell beautiful flowers, we're
Right.
happy. That's why we love flowers.
Right.
Aromatherapy is an essential human science.
It is.
Right?
It is so simple. It's like, it's so simple. How could this possibly work? And it's like, because it's natural. And I don't consider it alternative medicine. I consider it original medicine. And I think that everyone should be using it every day in some form and in some fashion.
Now, talk to us. I know that you do not yet have a e-commerce website. I know you're dreaming of this world, and it's very exciting. This RX for Life is an amazing label, and especially since its founder is a nurse that has such an honest to God, beautiful backstory.
Hell yes, thank you.
An amazing overstory of how you got here. But talk to us a little bit about when somebody says, okay, I'm dealing with cancer, Glennae. I need aromatherapy to strengthen me.
I don't know. You know, I deal specifically with mental health, you know, work in mental health and particularly workplace mental health. My goal and my drive is to end burnout. And I think that if we can end burnout, there will be a lot of preventable stress-related diseases, even some type of cancers that don't even come and touch that person. Burnout is the root. The workplace is the root to our health disparities, to our mental illness. And so if we can get people to relax, like paycheck dependent people. I was one of those. I need my paycheck like everyone else, but I don't need it to the point where I'm willing to forego my morale for something. And I don't walk away from things that are
oh, that's an amazing, that's bondage, right? That's bondage.
Yes.
You know, that's bondage. And bondage will make you sick as a dog.
It will make you sick. It will really make you sick. And, you know, we have this narrative in our world, particularly my people, this narrative of, you know, the bias and the discrimination. And I want my people to know that had I spent one moment thinking about race, I would have never won this fight. I would have never won this war. And you have to be able to make
instead of race, you thought about your worth?
My worth. I thought about my rights. I thought about my inalienable rights. I said, I told them people, I said, I'm going to have my workplace rights or I'm going to have my inalienable rights. One or the other, I'm going to have. Harriet Tubman said, give me freedom or give me death. Like, for real. It just, I wasn't. So, yeah. So my work is really geared to people who are employees and who care for other people, whose pilots care for other people, you know, and they're under a great deal of stress and, you know, the hierarchies at work and this, you know, the stockholders and all of these people and policies, nurses and physicians, people, anybody who is experiencing conflict and moral distress at work, whether or not you want to whistleblow, whether or not you want to confront somebody about, you know, sexual harassment, whether or not you want to talk to someone about just getting on your everlasting nerves. These are the people who I need to talk to so that you don't continue to have this giant come pop out in your life every once in a while and follow you throughout your careers, like you have to kill that spirit that is trying to keep you from your greatness. And that's part of the work that I do, is to bring clarity into those situations.
So
I want to go
what
back to
brings
when I was
clarity?
bring
What
clarity.
aroma tends to bring clarity?
It
I
does.
just, yeah. So what
It does.
aromatherapy? What herbs? What fragrances
So
help us calm
my
down and help us
basics,
think?
my basics of everything that I use has frankincense and myrrh. Those are two of the biblical spiritual ones. And I build off of that. I use rose and I use lavender, and I love pink peppers. And so one of my co-workers, I gave her a sample of some bath salts one time. And so she just contacted me again because she's like, oh, please send me a payment link because I need some more of your luxury salts. And so I asked her what was some of her favorite scents. And so I created her, a little perfume for her. So these are the things that I really enjoy doing. So hopefully it gets to the point where I'm manufacturing and just e-commercing, but I really like the intimacy of my private clients and being able to tailor what it is that they need to help them on their journey of becoming stress-free and just coping with their everyday and getting them back to work and making sure that they're rested. Part of our motto is rest, health, and beauty. Rest, health, and beauty.
I
Employees
have to
deserve
stop you
luxury.
though, because what's really cool, I don't want you to lose sight of something. I've been a marketer all my life, and I don't want you to just go e-commerce and make it for everybody.
Yeah, it's not.
One
Yeah.
of your powers is the fact that you are a coping coach.
Yeah.
And one of the tools in your toolbox is fragrance, whether it's oils or bath salts.
Right.
And even if it was for $150,
Mm-hmm.
you spend 15 minutes the first time on the phone talking to somebody, kind of learning where their head's at,
Mm-hmm.
what their fragrances are, and then manufacturing something
Yeah,
for
based
them.
on that, exactly. That's part of what I do. That is how I'm trying to make sure that this happens. And it's been great.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
been great.
It's been exciting.
It's
Well,
been
listen,
exciting.
we're coming on ending, but I wanted to ask you the question I love to ask all my guests, and that is, I used to think that health was blank, but now I know that health is blank.
I used to think that health. I mean, I could be easy and be like, health is wealth, but now I know that health is wealth. But let me see. I used to know that health is the most important. Yeah. Health is the most important tool that we have, and we cannot put it on anyone else to take care of us. I know that healthcare is our own responsibility. It is sole responsibility. And you always have to ask for what it is that you want, and ask with an expectancy to receive. Ask with an expectancy to be understood. Keep asking. And if
Mm-hmm.
and if that one person hasn't responded and time is of an essence for you, then you need to go above that person's head. You have to continue asking. You have to not be afraid. If there's fear there, then that is your cue that you are in the right place and all of heaven is cheering for you. Because if your knees are buckling, boy, you better know that the Spirit of the Lord is in the house. So you better do what you're supposed to be doing.
Oh, that's great. I love this. You used to think that health was like a condition, but now you know it's the most important life tool that we have, and we
Yeah,
can't put it on anyone else to take care of us.
right.
However, we can put it on nurse. I'm going to put this up one more time. Glennae at 323-580-4434.
Yes.
Glennae is really excited to be available as a resource. She's building a model for workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And those workshops will be an exciting combination of conflict resolution,
Yes.
healing, burnout, inclusiveness, fighting inequity, and
Yes.
really smelling fun things. I love
Really smelling fun things. Yes.
you are an amazing, amazing woman. And your youthfulness, your smile, your skin, your glow is a motivator for me. And I'm sure everyone else who's watching and listening. And you can find Glennae Davis on LinkedIn, like I did. And I just, this podcast will be shared on all the streaming platforms. But I want to tell you that as of today, we've been accepted to iHeartRadio.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, Apple Music, of course, Spotify. I'm still waiting on Google because you've got to do all this SEO stuff. But this is exciting. So I'll make sure you have the link so you can use that and talk to more people about just how wonderful your coping coaching is, how
Yes.
wonderful your knowledge of aromatherapy is, and certainly the whole RX for Life package.
Yes.
Pretty awesome.
Yes, I thank you so much for having me. And, to our listeners this evening, if you are dealing with any kind of job stress that is just really affecting your day to day, know that I know what you're experiencing and going through. I know what's at risk. I know what's on the table. I was a single mom making six figures and a homeowner, and I had went from $13 in a penny to making $68 and $70 an hour. So I know the struggle. I know how much is on the table, but I want you to also know that you can never lose any good thing, and put your health first. Put your health first. Your future health thanks you for the decisions that you make today.
Oh, Glennae, I thank God that you're with us. And we'll
Amen.
be talking again. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This is Rethink Your Health. And you can find new ways to wellness starting today. So go out and get that essential peppermint. Make yourself, I just bought bath salts with lavender and tea tree and a couple of other wonderful smells.
Yes.
It'll change your mood. Thanks
Yes.
again. Bye, everyone. Have a good night.